Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Richard's Podcast Land. And today we'll have Patricia Paz as going to be our guest for the interview. But before we get started, how are you doing today so far?
Me? I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. It's such an honor to have you here in my podcast series. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it. I have a lot.
Thanks.
You're very much welcome. I have a lot of questions to ask for you about your career and some stuff. Now, further than ado, let's get started, shall we? So here's
Okay.
Yeah. So here's my first question. Can you tell me like your whole experiences of how you became interested in acting? Says where did this all started?
I come from a kind of a strange background with my family. It seems that we're either uh, musically inclined or militarily inclined. I'm not quite sure why. A number of my family members have been in the armed services. A second cousin of mine was Joint Chief of Staff, General Dunford. And so the other half of us just all sort of gravitated towards music and theater and acting. And so I have some cousins that had an album out in the 50s or 60s, and they had a band. My dad started a theater group in Boston in the 60s or early 70s. So it was always kind of around. My first audition, I was 3 years old. Uh, Oddly enough, it was for A Good Man, Charlie Brown. And the I had been watching my sister teach my brothers all of her dance routines and the songs and the lyrics and whatever. And I watched intently. And so at the audition, the director said, "Is there anybody else that hasn't auditioned yet?" And I went, "Me." And I went running down there, and I knew everything that my sister had been teaching my brothers. And unfortunately, it was my first theater heartbreak because I didn't get the part because I was too small. But it was just something we always did as a family. Once we moved out to California, we got involved in a theater group called Jesters, and I'm still friends with people that I met there. And we didn't watch television. We were at the theater every night. We were building sets. We were selling tickets. We were running the concession stands. We were making costumes or running lights or sound, or we were on stage. And so it just when I got Annie, I was the original Los Angeles Annie in 1978 and 79 at the Schubert Theater. When I got that, everybody was like, "Oh, it's this big deal." And for me, it was just what I always did. It was a bigger audience, but really that's it. You know what I mean? There was no In my mind, there was no difference between them. So from there, I got peanuts. They came to see me in the show, and I had the voice that they were looking for, and they asked me to be the part.
Well, that's very awesome. Glad you enjoyed your whole experiences in the theater. Like, speaking of theater, do you have like a favorite role that you play at your local auditorium? Besides Annie, like, what is your favorite most role that you played in front of the whole audience? Or
You know what? When I was in my mid-20s, I did the Unsinkable Molly Brown at the Glendale Center Theater in Glendale, California. And I really had a lot of fun doing that. It had been a while since I had done theater. And so that was a fun show to do.
well, that's very great to hear. Like, but after like you finished studying theater, when you were casted to do the voice for Peppermint Patty, did you ever got a chance to meet the creator of Peanuts, Charles Schultz? If you have, how was it like working with him?
I did get to meet him. He came to several of my tapings. I always tell people that if there was a picture in the dictionary of a gentleman, uh, his picture would be there. He was quiet, but he was funny and kind. He treated all of us kids with the utmost respect. When I met him, um, for those that don't know, his nickname was Sparky, and it was given to him by his uncle when he was a tiny boy. And he said, all my friends call me Sparky, so call me Sparky. And there were a lot of adults that just don't treat kids that way. They don't treat them as a friend. They don't treat them with that respect. And he did. And everybody involved with Peanuts did. So it was pretty amazing.
Well, that's really great to hear. Charles Schultz is such a legend, you know. He's one of the reasons that I wanted to like became a huge Peanuts fan.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he's gone now. But our memories will always remain in our heads no matter what.
Yes, they will.
Yeah. When you were casted to voice Peppermint Patty, did you ever got a chance to stay with any of the other cast members like Bill Melendez or
Well, Bill Melendez was our director. So I was in the room with Bill, and the way they would typically do it, Bill would read the line to the kids, and then the kids were supposed to repeat them. But I was a bit of a smart aleck. I still am. And so he was like, okay, I'm going to read this line and you just repeat it the way that I said it. And if you've ever seen a video of Bill, first off, he was born and raised in Mexico City. And so his first language was Spanish. And then on top of that, he had a very interesting quality to his voice. And so, he read the line out to me and I read it back to him with the accent, with the voice that he has. And he was like, "Oh, no, 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 not with the accent, not with the accent." And I was like, I am 10 and I do know how to read. And he was like, "Oh, okay. Well, you just go ahead." Well, I'd been watching Peanuts for years. And so, it was easy for me to know what those inflections were. And that was a big part of how to read those characters. You didn't say, "Hey, Chuck, how are you?" You said, "Hey, Chuck, how are you?" Right? And that's how they all talk to one another. And I knew that instinctually. And so he just let me run with it, which was really awesome of him. And we had planned for an 8-hour day, and I got done in about an hour and a half.
Well, that's very awesome. I mean, Bill Melendez is such a funny dude. Like how did you react when he can actually make dog noises for Snoopy and birdie noises for Woodstock? Like, I don't even know how to do the voices for them as a kid. Like, it's really difficult for me to impersonate them.
He was so fun to be in the room with. He really was.
Yeah.
He made it really fun and really interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah. Say, speaking of Peanuts, did you heard that next year will actually be 60 years since Peanuts was created? Well, a Charlie Brown Christmas special was the first Peanuts special, so it will be like 60 years since the specials were released. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
can't
It's
believe.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Yep. Say, when you were casted as Peppermint Patty, how did your family and friends reacted when you were casted to play that particular character?
So like I said, acting was just sort of something that we did. And so it really wasn't something that my family celebrated. Not that they didn't like peanuts. It was just another job, you know. And we were all doing stuff. My brother was doing commercials, my sister was doing ABC specials. So there was always something going on. I did have one friend. His name is Peter Colross, and he was without a doubt the first super fan I ever met of anything. Like, this was before Star Wars, I'd never met a Trekkie. He was the first person that I ever was like, "Wow, he's really crazy about that peanuts." And so when I found out that I had gotten the role, he was the first person that I thought of. And, it's funny because I've started a podcast of my own. It's called The Peanuts Gallery, and Peter was my first interview, my first guest. It just seemed like such a natural fit to have him come on the show 'cause, he really was the first person that I knew who was like, "Have you ever read The Peanuts? This stuff is great." And of course, I'd already seen the specials when he introduced me, but he had the Snoopies and all the books and all the stuff and all the movies and, you know, so it was really fun having him on the show.
That's awesome. Peter must have been a huge Peanuts fan, you know?
Huge, huge.
Yep. All right. Next question. What are your hobbies when you don't do acting? Like, do you play sports? Do you do music or something?
I unlike Peppermint Patty, I do not do sports. I so my real job is watching dogs, and I walk dogs every day. It's been a great job for me. It's something different every day. The screaming in the background is a Frenchie. Um, they're they're hilarious dogs. Um, I do music. I owned a studio for a while. We rented out rooms to songwriters for co-writes. I actually have a degree in songwriting, but I'm not doing a whole lot of that anymore. What I've really been focused on is the peanut stuff, doing Comic Cons, starting this podcast. I just got a new car, and my friends all decided that her name should be Lucy because she's blue.
Yeah. I mean, I do have a dog named Milo, which we got him last year back in June when he was just a baby. And he was
Oh,
really crazy. When every time he runs around the house, he runs really crazy like the Flash every time he has a lot of energy coming out. And after
right.
and
They're
every time,
so fun.
yeah. Every time we try to give him a bath, all of a sudden, and when we try to dry him up, we try to give him like the spray thing, and he always gets angry because he doesn't like the scent.
No,
Yeah. I mean, some dogs are always adorable and cute, but we have to make sure that they don't chew or not aggressive because we don't know if they're always friendly.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Although most of the dogs that I know are extraordinarily friendly, and I'm very blessed to have them in my life.
Yeah, true. Okay. Next question. What are
Yeah.
your dream roles that you will be honored to act in the future? It would be Marvel, Star Wars, Stranger Things, or something.
Um, it would be fun to do any sort of acting at this point. It's been a long time since I've been out in LA. I actually live outside of Nashville, Tennessee now. And it whatever I got would just be a fun experience to do. But it's not something that I'm, actively pursuing at this point. But if something came my way, I'd definitely do it.
Yeah. Hopefully, there's a chance you could get to act with them in the future. If God notices, he knows what to choose. But we'll see. Yeah. All right, that is it for this episode. Thank you so much, Patricia, for joining here in my podcast series. I really appreciate
Oh,
having you here.
it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're very much welcome, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And remember, stay awesome, stay positive, and stay happy for all of your Peanut fans and co stars. All right? Take care,
Thank
Patricia.
you. Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye bye.